Hello class, and welcome to this Batman NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and we're kicking off a whole month devoted to games based on films, a TV show I think in one case, but mostly films. The licensing was a big business in the late 80s when it came to NES games, video games in general, and that's what we have today in this Batman NES walkthrough, and we are definitely earning your tuition money today. By which I mean this class is free. Please consider subscribing if you haven't. Leave a comment on this video if you remember this game, and if you have fond or maybe terrible memories of it, given the difficulty. I was talking about the difficulty, so let's handicap this game as we always do. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Batman for the NES an 8 out of 10, which on the frustration scale equates to writing a threatening letter to the developer, in this case Sunsoft, who have made some challenging games around this time. We did recent classes on Fester's Quest and Blaster Master, both challenging games in their own ways. I might bump up the difficulty of Batman to a 9 out of 10, but you have infinite continues in this game, so with enough plugging away, you should be able to eventually beat it. I think Gary especially is going to be earning his money today, because a lot of the difficulty from Batman stems from the bosses, as well as the platforming aspect. So basically the whole game. Is that what you're telling me, Professor? Yes, I am. Let's take a look at the background here. It's a dark, deserted city governed by crime and violence. Whole town's in preparation for the 200th anniversary of the Gotham City Festival. Bicentennial. Look there, Joker, the city's evil leader. Did we elect him to that role? In which case, why? I could see why Batman may have some incentive to do that, keeps him in business, but we go, Vicky Vale. Might be easy to forget about her unless you're a big fan of the, the comics and some of the movies. I guess Batman in general, you probably know who she is. But there he is. Got to avenge our parents' death. Parents with the double R there, the rare spelling. And I like that they spelled it correctly earlier in that paragraph and then just couldn't be bothered to spell check the second half of that very, very short paragraph. But anyway, let's run that intro and get into this Batman NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. So let's get into it. Gotham City's certainly not going to clean itself up. And you know what? Free tuition to anyone who can identify what that, let's just call it a hood ornament on the Batmobile is, that phallic-looking hood ornament, as Batman pulls over the car in this kind of seemingly random spot. I guess it's a good enough spot as any to start cleaning up Gotham as we take a look at the controls for Batman for the NES. So we can punch and use our weapon with B, we can jump, and the mechanic which the game centers around is kind of a wall jump, kind of like Ninja Gaiden a little bit. Just tap A while you're on a wall to do a wall jump. We can pause the game with select our weapon once we have points with start. Blaze will talk about the weapons that we have, and just kind of move around with the D-pad. Nothing too crazy there. So speaking of the items and weapons in Batman for the NES, let's go to our resident items expert, Blaze, to tell us a bit more about each one. Blaze?
Alright, let's talk about the basic pickup items you'll get from beating the scum of Gotham City in Batman. First, we have the B, bat points, whatever you want to call these. These just go towards your score, so if you're battling out with your friend on the couch trying to get that higher score, if you're good enough that you can beat this game, and that's all that's left to decide the difference between you and your friend, more power to you. Collect those bat bucks, and there you go. Next, we have the all-important heart refill, which refill 1 meter of your health when you pick up one of these hearts. And lastly, we have these 10 weapon point containers, which go towards the number of special weapons you can use.
All right, thank you, Blaze. And we've been cycling through them. You can see the Batarang, obviously, but why don't you give us a quick overview of our 3 weapons?
Alright, now let's talk about the 3 weapons which Batman has at his disposal. Assuming you have weapon points, you can use the Batarang, which shoots a short boomerang motion, very effective, and my personal weapon/item of the game in Batman. Then we have the spear gun, which is just a normal gun basically. It shoots a single shot across the screen. Sorry, the Batarang costs 1 point, the spear gun 2. And then finally the Dirk shoots out a wider triple shot across the screen, the full length of the screen. And it's appropriate that it fires 3 shots because it takes 3 special weapons points.
Alright, thank you very much, Blaze. And that has taken us to our first boss. Let's go to our resident boss expert, Gary.
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters.
Alright, Killer Moth, very simple. Just stay in the lower left side of the screen and then throw the Batarang when he flies down from the right. You can duck to avoid his attacks, but just keep this up and the battle's over pretty quickly.
Alright, perfect timing there, Gary. Thank you very much. There it is. What is that thing? I would say I'm not going to say what I would say it's for, but there we go again. I assume Batman has leads here. He's not just shooting up some random guy's storage unit, but here we are on the second level. Now that we have a chance, let's take a look at the Briggs notes, the keys to beating Batman for the NES. First and foremost, use your Batarang and the other weapons as necessary, quite liberally. There will pretty much never be a shortage of pellets, which is, as Blaze mentioned, these are the points for your weapon use. You can restock on these pellets and health at certain key points in the game, and we'll talk about that as we get there. And last but not least, a bit of a cop-out, if I do say so myself, but master the jumping mechanic. In these first couple of levels, it's a lot more straightforward, so it's a good chance to get a good grip on it, basically. The final couple stretches of this game, there are some very tricky spots, basically, where you need to just have an advanced command on that mechanic, basically. So, it's just good to get a lot of use out of it here. Not a lot to prepare you for these later stretches, as you'll see once we get there, but we can take a little shortcut right here with said jumping mechanic. Always nice to cut down on the enemies that Batman has to face. I'm sure they'll, see the light of justice as I try to come up with a catchphrase for Batman on the spot. But really the only other key to beating this game is understanding how to take on each boss, and again, Gary had some great tips moving forward here. This is a nice little stretch here to master the jumping mechanic. We could do little shallow jumps, as you can see there, by putting less pressure on that jump button, holding it for a little less, split second less, basically. Kind of regulating the height of each jump is very key to getting through this section and some of the later sections in particular. So you can see how we manage these different sections here. Nice long jump right there. So here we're going to want to scroll out an enemy before we make the jump, basically. Wait for them to drop down. And now the way is clear here. We want to come really low on that block so we can clear that without hitting our head on the electricity above. And one of those enemies that I was referring to, or one of those points where we can restock on health and pellets, is right here with these guys. This is not the best located one, basically, but it'll just keep dropping those things infinitely. So as long as we stay far enough away and just keep punching, we can get basically unlimited items that we need. I don't recommend doing it here on this conveyor belt. Just use the Batarang to clear the way in that section. But if you ever need to restock on your health or weapons points right there, that's a good place to do it. And there's a few of these scattered throughout the game. I'm going to take the high road here. We could go down there. It's an alternate way of going. Here's another place where we can stock up, courtesy of that enemy. This is a bit tricky here. We need to drop off the edge. And the controls are tight enough so that we can actually maneuver and turn around there and grab onto that conveyor belt, which somehow doesn't keep moving us when we're holding onto the side of it. And next boss, Gary.
Alright, machine intelligence. Use the spear gun from the bottom left. By ducking and shooting, you can hit both turrets this way. Once that's taken down, you can get a little bit of that ledge on the top right side next to the shield, and you can fire that same spear gun at the left to take down that shield barrier. And then I just like to jump up there, throw some punches, and the battle is over very quickly.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yeah, you can get through this entire battle without taking any damage until you get to this final stretch. Nothing too crazy, and that'll knock you down, but and we can use weapons here, but the timing is kind of tricky, so it's just easier to come up here and punch away, and just like that, we're done. And on to the third level. There's that famous line, "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" What are you on, Joker? Alright, these guys are extremely annoying. The key is to get close enough to them so they jump to one side of you and then just keep alternating, basically. Their pattern will be pretty predictable as long as you stick to that pattern yourself. Don't try running from them, kind of like encountering a bear in the woods or some other kind of predator like that. That'll just trigger its hunting instinct, so just keep your cool, basically. We have more tricky jumps going on around here. In this case, I like to just use the gun and hit him at length right here. Just easier when we don't have a lot of room to maneuver around to get him to jump on either side of us like we don't have here. Just gotta get the timing right. Here, make sure you do a very shallow jump, so you're right on the edge of this little grinding thing, and then just start punching. He'll land right in front of you most of the time, and you can take out both enemies without taking any damage. And while we're going through this tricky section here, let's go to Fluff for our very first Fluff fact of Batman for the NES. Fluff?
Unlike another licensed video game made by Sunsoft from the same year, which we did one of our first classes on and enjoyed giving some playful ribbing to, Bester's Quest, Batman is actually based on a specific property, the mega successful Tim Burton film of the same name, which was released earlier in that same year of 1989. Utilizing cutscenes that kinda sorta depict the plot of the film, Batman is an example of when video games based on a licensed concept worked well. Fans of the DC Comics series, which Batman was originally based on, will also recognize many of the enemies and bosses from the game, as the comics served as another major source of inspiration to fill in the gaps.
So there you go. All you Batman super fans probably recognize some of these enemies. Well, depending on how well Sunsoft animated them compared to the comics. And if we head up here, this will take us to 3-3, where we have some tricky tanks to deal with. We do a nice little soft touch here and then jump again. We can avoid damage there. There's one of those tanks I was referring to. The trick here is to get low and close so that it's shooting over you. It's not always an option, depending on some of the platforms, but there we go. Obviously, we want to get through this section taking as little damage as possible. This is a tricky spot for another one of these tanks because we gotta disarm or dismantle one of those little drones first, and then get close enough, and then this weapon is the WOC for this particular section. Usually we can get by just fine with the Batarang. Getting a lot of use out of it. Got lazy there. Could have easily just Bataranged that out of existence, but you can certainly see why Blaze gave this the weapon of the game designation, or the item of the game for him. This time let's do it right. Let's use the Batarang there. And we have another restock point here if you're low on either health or the weapons points. The pellets with the little lip there, that makes it extra safe to just punch them before they go over the edge. So here's our first taste at some very tricky jumping here. Gotta watch out for the turbines. Gotta time it so that we get in between this guy's moves, and it's a very small window we have to jump between those turbines right there. get hit and you'll get knocked back down and have to do it again, so... Just a small sampling of what we'll have to deal with later in the game, but... As I said, just practice that move. The jumping mechanic and the controls in this game in general are very tight. So that's nice, but we have our next boss. We have a great tip from Gary for you on this one. Gary?
Alright, the Electrocutioner. We have a very good strategy for this one, very meticulous. You'll see if you start off at the bottom left, you want to jump up to that top left platform, and then when he comes at you, jump to the left, and then bat jump back onto that platform to avoid him in that tiny little window that they give you. And then he'll kind of cheat that left jump again as he's facing that way. That's when your chance to get down on your knees and just start punching. Or you can throw the batarang to put some more distance between the two of you. It's a little bit safer. But then just rinse and repeat after that jump. Go to the right side. Do it again like you can see right here on screen. But that is the best way to take down the Electrocutioner. Just watch out for the low headroom coming in from that right side basically. But there you go. Congratulations.
Yeah, patience is key in this particular battle. This is a marathon, certainly not a sprint, but just stick to this rhythm. You'll eventually take him down. I think it took about 30 batarangs or something like that. Sometimes you can get extra punches in when you switch to those instead, so that can be the better move if you don't mind getting a little closer. Just be careful that you don't get too close to him, because he does still jump up high enough to hit you. Very good boss battles in this game, I have to say. Challenging, but fair. You know, if you can find the tricks for each one. Joker himself is especially difficult, but it'll be time to get to that. Speaking of which, look at my latest work of art, says Joker. Doesn't really look like Joker. Well, it doesn't look like Nicholson, that's for sure. Now here on 4-1, if you need any extra health, they don't always top you off between levels. I think they give you 4 health back between levels. Here we want to bring this guy out even though he's going to respawn, so this is kind of a tricky section actually. We want to get close enough so that he's not going to respawn, but we don't take tons of damage from the dropping pod right there. But yeah, plenty of places to top everything off right here if you need to. Generally, it's mostly health that you'll be worried about, because you'll get enough pellets from just the course of fighting most enemies in this game, even if you're using the batarang as your go-to weapon, basically. Just a bit impatient here, as I just give up on strategy and just run through here. Not a big deal. There will be, again, more places to fill up our health. And while we have another stretch here, let's go to Fluff for yet another Batman fact right here, as we have some tricky jumps coming up once again. Fluff?
Although made by different developers, Batman and the previous year's Ninja Gaiden have a lot in common. Most notably, they both feature cutscenes before the game and between levels, and both operate on a very well-designed and centric wall-jumping mechanic. And while, like you pointed out, Professor, Batman for the NES is considered to be one of the more difficult titles on the system, there's a prototype which featured one-ups and alternate cinematic scenes. Evidently, someone at Sunsoft decided the initial iteration of the game was too easy.
Probably the guy online who tells you to get good when you reach out for help with the game on the message boards.
I hate that guy.
Me too. Thank you very much, Fluff. Yeah, we got some tricky jumps here, some low headroom to work with or not work with. Some of these jumps are akin to threading a needle right here. You can just, if you get low enough, you can clear both the top and bottom obstacles, but very satisfying if you can pull them off. Here in 4-3, the final section before the next boss. Here I just like to gun through. Very little strategy, just accept you're going to take a little bit of damage. We can top off there again. We're going to bet on ourselves for the moment, at least, as we have it. It sound like a broken record here, but yet another tricky stretch of jumps coming up. Not sure the batarang will reach there. We'll take that health, though. So now we have not only platforms to contend with, but moving platforms, in the sense that these are little conveyor belts. So here we just want to clear this entirely, and then we'll just keep using our forward momentum there. And just like that. It's a pretty clean way of getting through there. That area can be very tricky. But just really get a good feel for those jumps. Again, broken record, but it is it's the heart of this game, basically. We have another tank. Use some nice shallow jumps to stay low there and avoid the cannon fire. Jump and duck. Get a bit closer, and we can switch over to this weapon here to get a little extra height and still get hits in from relative safety. Here, we can regulate our jumps just a bit. Got lucky there with the timing. Just kind of ignore that little Roomba. Roomba set to kill. Alright, so now we can actually take a stop here and restock our supplies for once. Not sure if that guy's going to keep coming or if he's going to... Alright, he's on a looped pattern here. Punching both sides right here. He took quite a few hits. Plenty of bat bucks there for, again, if you're having a little contest with your friend. And that's how you want to settle it, more power to you. I like to think that there's still a pair of friends out there who are competitive over high scores and Batman for the NES from, what, 1989 or something like that. Getting pretty lucky with the hearts here, I think. In terms of drops, the hearts are probably the rarest of everything that these things drop. Probably goes bat bucks, pellets, and then a distant third would be the hearts. And we're coming up on the next boss, Gary.
Boss beater. Alright, the dual container alarm. The best way to do this, I've found, is to climb up to that platform right there and just crouch and just turbo punch. And you might want to just kind of get as many punches as you can on one of them before it gets destroyed, then repeat for the other one. And then when you finally take one down that way, you'll have less punches to dole out to that remaining alarm. And then just get down on the ground for that one, get in the middle, and just start punching as it comes by to take it down relatively easily.
Simple enough strategy, very effective. Thank you, Gary. As we take to the sky with the Batwing. Kind of begs the question, why didn't we just take the Batwing straight to Joker's lair in the first place? Now we had to stop off and clear out the Axis chemical factory first. Very important stop. But here we are in 5-1. Getting into the final section of this game. And the trickiest jumps, trickiest platforming. And, you know, some of the trickiest on the NES in general is featured here in 5-1. You lucky devil. Class. You lucky devils, I should say. Who dance with Batman in the pale moonlight, apparently. Or, I don't know, maybe the Joker is encouraging that, I don't know. Almost looks like you can take a jump shortcut right there, but you can't. You have to go up the long way here and just kind of stagger your jumps off the wall so you can time it and get up to that guy. Another place to top off your items if you need to, and health, but we're doing okay at the moment, thankfully. Here we're going to head to the right, and we're getting into the worst platforming of this game. Best and the worst. The gauntlet. So it's very tricky. If you can, manage to thread that needle to not take any damage, congratulations. You probably don't need to be watching this, but appreciate that you are. This is probably the worst jump in the whole game. I recommend just getting up there and just taking some damage if you can. You'll notice, I say this very late in the game, but it's going to actually pay dividends with the Joker especially. When we hit an enemy in this game and they're flashing, we are temporarily invincible from them. as opposed to if we took damage, we'd be temporarily invincible. So just something to keep in mind. Get that first hit in, and then enjoy that temporary invincibility so we can just land on the enemy and deliver the finishing blows, basically. And if you made it through all that tricky platforming, congratulations. We have one last stop here before we get into the final 2 bosses of this game. So this is the final place to restock your levels, basically right here. Make sure that you have 99 pellet, weapon points at this point, and your health is topped off. I cannot stress that enough. So we'll just get those last minute top offs right here, as these hearts are very hard to come by. Good point to mention, one last time, if you haven't enrolled in this class already, please subscribe to this channel. We really do appreciate it. We do these classes every single week. We'd love to have you along for the ride with us. And again, like and leave a comment on this video if you have good or terrible memories of this game. And here we are for the penultimate boss right here, as he throws a Nazi salute, apparently. Not only is he a disciple of the Joker, but a Nazi at that. He's just asking for it. Gary, what do you got for us?
Alright, Firebug is all about getting into a nice rhythm, jump over his attack, throw that batarang, and just rinse and repeat. Be careful not to throw 2 batarangs, otherwise it'll mess up the rhythm a little bit and his pattern. But if you just keep hitting that same rhythm, that same pattern, he'll follow the same pattern, and he'll be dead in about 30 batarangs, give or take. Sometimes they hit double, so it could take a bit longer, it could take a bit less, but there you go, Firebug.
Pretty straightforward. Patience, once again, is key. Batarang move to go to. Every now and then he gets a little frustrated, runs out of patience himself. Clearly not enrolled in this class himself, Firebug. We wouldn't want to have you anyway, Firebug. Get out of here. And usually we can beat him having about 70 batarangs left, most of which you will need for this final boss, which I don't think I'm spoiling anything by telling you it's the Joker. Alright, Gary, take us home.
Alright, Joker is not only my award winner for toughest boss of Batman, he's one of the hardest bosses on the NES for my money. At the very start of the battle, make sure you wall jump off the left to avoid getting shot by that gun, which does a ton of damage. Avoid it at all costs. Then you just want to get up next to Joker as close as you can to that gun while there's still a little bit of space between you. That's the ideal distance there. Then you will avoid his lightning attack if he throws it. And then at that point, just keep throwing batarangs. He shouldn't try to shoot you at that point with his gun. But if you hit him with the batarang, he'll run back right to left. And if he's hit, he'll be stunned and he will not hit you. He'll do no damage to you. And then when he gets to the other side, do a jump to get over his gun blast, reposition yourself, repeat the same thing with the batarang. Congratulations, you've taken down one of the toughest bosses on the NES in Joker.
Alright, Gary, thank you very much. Tips were invaluable for beating him, as we got a few shots in at the end for killing our parents, with 2 R's, by the way. Just 1 right there. Now he's gonna dance with the devil in the pale moonlight. And there he goes. Congratulations, class. You have beaten one of the tougher games for the NES in Batman. Just get a nice close-up. Not laughing now. I like it when Batman goes crazy and just actually finally murders someone. Actually, we killed a lot of people in this game. Normally not Batman style, but in this game, I guess he kind of snapped a little bit. Good work today from all of my teaching assistants. Thank you very much, class, for attending this one. This is a good game. Again, just because it's challenging, it's still a very good game. And after the more of a clunker that was Fester's Quest, which I still stand by, it's not a bad game. This is a much better game from Sunsoft, and a much better licensed game from Sunsoft. By the way, let me know in the comments if there is a game you would like to see a class on in the future. We've actually had a number of requests already, and we've actually done some classes based on requests, so I do appreciate it. In the meantime, we will see you in the same spot next week for next week's class. Hope you have a great week until then. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.
Please don't pretend that we'll come.